The rain had been falling for hours, a relentless curtain that blurred the edges of the small town of Ashford. The streets were empty, the houses shuttered, and the only sound was the steady drumming of water against the cracked pavement. Daniel Mercer tightened his grip on the steering wheel, his headlights cutting through the storm. He wasn't supposed to be here. His GPS had rerouted him after a highway closure, leading him down a road that didn't exist on any map. The sign he passed minutes ago was rusted, its letters barely legible. Welcome to Ashford. Something about the town felt wrong. The houses leaned at odd angles, their windows dark, their doors swollen with rot. No cars, no people, no signs of life except for the faint glow of a single light in the distance. Daniel slowed the car, squinting through the rain. The light came from a two-story Victorian house at the end of the street. Its porch lamp flickered, casting long shadows across the yard. Against his better judgment, he pulled over. His phone had lost signal miles back, and the storm was only getting worse. Shelter, he figured, was better than drowning in the dark. He walked up the overgrown path, the air thick and heavy. The front door creaked open before he even knocked. A woman stood there, pale and thin, her hair hanging in damp strands around her face. "You shouldn't be here," she whispered. Her voice was brittle, like glass about to shatter. Daniel forced a smile, trying to seem harmless. "I'm so sorry. My car. This storm. I just need a place to wait it out." Her eyes darted to the empty street, then back to him. "If you stay, you'll regret it." The warning was clear, but the wind howled, pushing him forward. She stepped aside, and Daniel entered. The interior smelled of mildew and dust. Wallpaper peeled from the walls in long, curling strips, and the floor groaned under his weight. Yet the living room was strangely intact. A fire burned in the hearth, casting a warm, inviting glow across antique furniture. It felt like a trap, but it was a warm one. The woman gestured for him to sit. "My name is Evelyn." Daniel introduced himself, trying to ignore the way her hands trembled, the way her gaze kept flitting towards the dark corners of the room. "You should leave before midnight," she said suddenly, her voice dropping to a near whisper. "That's when they come." Daniel frowned, a knot of unease tightening in his stomach. "Who comes?" Evelyn's eyes filled with tears, reflecting the firelight. "The ones who whisper, the ones who never leave. They'll tell you to get out, but if you listen, it's already too late." Her words hung in the air, heavy and absurd. Daniel tried to laugh it off, a nervous chuckle, but the sound died in his throat. The fire in the hearth flickered violently, as if reacting to her warning. Shadows stretched and danced across the walls, twisting into shapes that didn't belong to the room. "Look," Daniel said, standing up, his patience wearing thin. "I'll just wait until the rain stops. I don't believe in ghosts or whatever this is." Just as the words left his mouth, a sharp, deafening knock rattled the front door. The sound echoed through the house, seeming to come from everywhere at once. Evelyn froze. Her lips moved soundlessly, repeating the same phrase over and over. "Get out! Get out! Get out!" The knocking grew louder, more insistent, like a fist pounding against the wood. Daniel moved towards the door, his own fear now mixed with a strange defiance. But Evelyn grabbed his arm, her grip surprisingly strong. "Don't open it," she hissed, her eyes wild with terror. "They're not outside. They're already here." As she spoke, the entire house groaned, its walls vibrating as if something massive and unseen were pressing against them from all sides. Then the whispers began. They started low, a guttural murmur that seemed to seep from the cracks in the floorboards, from the vents, from the very air itself. "Get out." Daniel spun around, searching for the source. The voices overlapped, 100 of them, then 1,000, each one dripping with a cold, ancient malice. "Get out." In an instant, the fire died, plunging the room into absolute darkness. The only light was the faint, stormy glow from the windows. Daniel stumbled backward, his breath catching in his throat. He fumbled for his phone, pulling it from his pocket, but the screen was black, completely unresponsive. Evelyn stood motionless in the gloom, her eyes wide, her mouth open in a silent, horrified scream. The whispers grew louder, no longer just a command, but a chorus of taunts, forming words that clawed at Daniel's sanity. "You don't belong here. This is our house. Get out." He couldn't take it anymore. He bolted for the door, yanking it open with all his might. Rain and wind poured in, but the street outside was gone. Instead, a corridor stretched endlessly into the dark, lined with identical doors that seemed to pulse like living flesh. Daniel slammed the door shut, his heart pounding against his ribs. "What is happening?" he shouted into the darkness. Evelyn finally spoke, her voice hollow and defeated. "You entered after midnight. You can't leave now. The house has you." Daniel's mind raced. Midnight? That wasn't possible. He looked at his watch, the faint light of its face a small comfort in the dark. It was 12:03 a.m., but he'd arrived hours ago. Hadn't he? Time itself seemed to be breaking apart. The whispers erupted into a cacophony of cruel laughter, a chorus of mocking voices that filled every inch of the house. Evelyn collapsed to the floor, clutching her head. "I tried to warn you," she sobbed. "I've been here for years. Every time someone enters, the house feeds. It keeps us trapped, makes us part of the voices." Daniel backed away, his stomach twisting into a knot of pure terror. "No, I'm not staying. I'll find a way out." As if in response, the walls began to bleed. A dark, thick liquid seeped from the cracks in the old plaster, running down in sticky rivulets. The floorboards beneath his feet warped and twisted, forming words directly under him. "Get out." He had to move. He ran for the stairs, taking them two at a time, desperate for a window, another door, anything. The upstairs hallway stretched unnaturally long, each step pulling him deeper into the house's impossible labyrinth. Doors lined the corridor, and as he passed each one, it whispered his name. Daniel, Daniel, Daniel. He threw one open at random and found himself staring into his own childhood bedroom. His old toys sat neatly on the shelves, his bed made exactly as it had been 20 years ago. A voice whispered from the closet, a child's voice. "Get out!" He slammed the door shut, panic rising like bile in his throat. He tried another door, and it opened into his college dorm room, complete with posters and textbooks he hadn't seen in a decade. Another door revealed his first apartment, the one he'd shared with his ex-girlfriend. The house wasn't just trapping him, it was consuming his memories, rebuilding itself into the most personal corners of his life. At the very end of the impossible hallway stood a single, large door larger than all the others. With his last bit of courage, Daniel pushed it open. Inside, he found Evelyn, but she looked different. Her face was younger, her eyes were alive, free from the terror that had consumed her. She was wearing clothes from a different era. "This is where it ends," she said softly. "The house will show you everything you fear, everything you regret. If you fight it, you'll become one of the voices. If you accept it, you'll just vanish." Daniel shook his head, refusing to believe it. "No, I'll get out." The whispers returned with a vengeance, a deafening roar that shook the very foundations of the room. "Get out." The room dissolved around him, the walls melting away, leaving Daniel floating in a void of endless, suffocating darkness. Faces appeared in the blackness: his parents, his friends, people he'd known, strangers he'd passed on the street, all of them whispering the same two words. "Get out." He screamed, covering his ears, but the voices were inside him now, echoing through his skull, becoming his own thoughts. And then, silence. Daniel opened his eyes. He was back in his car, parked outside the old Victorian house. The rain had stopped. The street was empty. A wave of profound relief washed over him. It was a dream, a nightmare brought on by the storm and the stress. He laughed, a shaky, breathless sound. It was over. But then he glanced down at the steering wheel. Carved deep into the leather were two words: "Get out." His phone buzzed in his pocket. He pulled it out. A single notification was on the screen. It was from his GPS app. It read, "Welcome to Ashford." Weeks later, Daniel Mercer's car was found abandoned on the edge of that forgotten town. The police conducted a thorough search of the area but found no trace of him. He had simply vanished. The house still stands at the end of the street, its porch lamp flickering faithfully in the night. And if you're ever lost on those back roads and you happen to pass by, listen closely. You can still hear the whispers carried on the wind. Get out. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this story, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more chilling tales. Let me know in the comments what you think happened to Daniel. Until next time, stay safe